I was done. Like grilling and cooking out in the parking lots, outdoors, like you said in the beginning, that open fire, the meat, the community is what really, I think, kept me in it. So my love of food and cooking really happened because of that community I saw. You know, when you're grilling, when you're cooking, more people come around, parties start, people converse. It turned into an obsession of sorts for me.
Matt Groark, welcome to the American Glutton Podcast.
Appreciate you, Ethan. Thanks for having me, man.
Dude, I'm so excited to talk with you. I love meat, and I love barbecue and grill, like meat and open flames. I mean, like, let's be honest, I'll eat meat raw, chop it up real fine, throw some shallots in there. I'll eat just about anything. But I've been dieting so long, and I would have thought that I would be dreaming about, pizza and pasta and stuff like that. But my dreams are about really well cooked, like a nice thick bark on a beef rib, on a gigantic beef rib. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it doesn't get much better.
No,
does not get much better.
Or even just like a brisket that's like got that wobble to it, and you're going to cut into it and see the layers of flavor in there. I mean, I will literally go to bed and think about these things at night.
Look, people will crucify me for saying it. It's one of those things that you really can't say in public that pizza is overrated. You'd get crushed, but man, keep the pizza. They can have the pizza. Give me the beef rib. Give me the medium rare ribeye steak. Give me some pork ribs. I mean, I'll tell you what, I've gotten big into elk lately.
Really?
And just
that's nice and mean.
Okay. Dude, absolutely incredible. I
have a story about elk, and I think I won't get in trouble for saying this story. My kid, I might. Who cares? So I had hunted a feral pig up in Northern California, and then the headmaster at my kid's school in Oregon had an elk, so we did a little meat trade. And
awesome.
I wound up with a lot of elk. Like the pig I got it probably produced like 100 pounds of meat, but this guy had like 300 pounds of elk meat.
An elk that's huge.
Just massive. So I went home one year with a big cooler full of elk. I've never shot an elk. I've gone hunting with a guy who had an elk tag. By the way, very difficult in some places just to get an elk tag.
I know. It's tough around here even to get a tag for deer. In the Jersey area here.
Yeah. So I was like amazed this guy had one. And one time I was grilling, and my youngest daughter had a few of her friends over, and I thought, let's see what they think of elk. I'm not going to tell them, and let's see what they think. And I made these elk strip loins, and every one of those little girls asked for seconds.
Loved it.
And talked about how this is the best steak they've ever had. And I didn't tell them that we were eating, Bambi's larger uncle, because I knew they would have been horrified if I had said that. But they absolutely loved elk steaks.
It's great. My boys are the same way. My boys are 9 and 10, and they love it. It's sweet. It's subtle. It doesn't have that gaminess that you can get with venison sometimes. And you cook it medium rare. It's tender. It's so good. I have a ton of bucket list items, but hunting is one of them. I've never hunted. I went to last summer. I was at a Operation Barbecue camp in the Ozarks with some families of veterans, siblings of veterans, and I was cooking for them during the weekend that they had with Operation Barbecue. And my buddy there that is the head chef there, he has won the squirrel cooking contest.
Wow.
multiple years down in like Arkansas, which is like exactly where you would expect it to be, the squirrel world championships of cooking. and he took me out and I shot a squirrel and took it back and cooked it. So my only catch and cook to date
It's a squirrel.
is a squirrel, you know. So I have loftier goals. I want to get out there and hunt at some point.
Was the squirrel delicious?
It was good. It's so cliche to hear people say it tastes like chicken,
but
that statement in general. When you talk about gator and you talk about snake and you talk about all these exotic meats, it really, I mean, squirrel, of all of them that I've had, squirrel is probably the closest to chicken.
Oh, wow.
Even more so than frog legs.
Yeah, frog legs are very much like just chicken wings, and rabbit tastes a lot like chicken. A lot of it just winds up tasting like chicken. Yep. I bet some of the weird things like muskrat or, raccoon or beavers, it starts, people used to eat beaver tails and get the fat out of beaver tails and stuff. I bet that doesn't taste like chicken.
It can't, and that's got to be gamey and have a certain funk to it, like I would imagine those kind of animals have to be a little funky, but man, people survive on them.
What started your journey cooking meat?
So, I mean, I've worked in restaurants my whole life. Like my first job, I was washing dishes at a country club. My sister was a waitress and she got me a job, slinging dishes back in the kitchen. And I was at 15, 16 years old. And that turned into eventually helping chop some lettuce and onions and carrots and helping prep. And so, that turned into working at restaurants as a waiter and server and bartender. So I've always been around the kitchen. My story is a little different in the sense that the answer there for most people is usually like, well, my mom, my grandma, there's that inspiration, right, is usually in the kitchen. Mine was kind of the opposite. Like as I got older, having that love for being around food and in the kitchen, the restaurant stuff went up until I was in my 30s, man, like teaching full time. We all know teachers, as far as a salary, usually have 2 or 3 other jobs to make ends meet. And I was no different. So I was waiting tables, leaving school at the end of the day and going to the restaurant and working. So I've always been around the kitchen. And then, early 2000s, 2003, roughly became a season ticket holder for the Philadelphia Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles.
Finally.
And I know, right? And that was it, man. I was done. Like grilling and cooking out in the parking lots, outdoors, like you said in the beginning, that open fire, the meat, the community is what really, I think, kept me in it. I didn't have my mom at home when I was younger, cooking meals every night. My parents separated when I was young. So it was like fast food every night. My dad throw us a 20 and be like, you fly, I buy, and we'd jump in the car and go grab food, or he'd bring something home from work. So my love of food and cooking really happened because of that community I saw. When you're grilling, when you're cooking, more people come around, parties start, people converse. It turned into an obsession of sorts for me, outside of just the meat and the food, but the people surrounding it. And that's what really did it. And the parking lot tailgates continued. They've gotten bigger and bigger. Had my guy Jason Kelsey at a tailgate this past season with us in Philly for the home opener for the Eagles game. We're doing some more stuff this coming season, already planning. So that's really what did it.
When did it move from this passion of like tailgating and just the love of barbecue? Because like I'm a dad, I love to grill outside. Yep. When did it expand beyond that?
So I can thank a lot of people for it, one being my family and the tailgate stuff, but I didn't really become obsessive about the art and the science of it, as far as barbecue and the smoking, until my stepfather, my father-in-law actually dropped a smoker off at my house, a little 36-inch propane smoker, as like a thank you for my wife, Kristen, and I dog sitting for them when they went away one weekend. And I went out to Sam's Club that night. I bought, I think, Ethan, I came home with every protein they had at Sam's Club. I was like,
Right.
chicken, oh, beef, got it. Pork, I'm in. Chicken
You were
wings, I'm in.
smoking everything.
Dude, it was game over. I was like, I had 6 different proteins. I went home, I bought some wood chips and I soaked them overnight. And I woke up at 4 a.m., tried figuring out how to start the smoker because it was my first time using it. I threw everything in there at one time. Like I'm sitting out there with my coffee, probably ruining the meat. But it was just that, man, I'm not a huge morning person, even though I teach. But you want to get me up out of bed real quick, send me some smoke signals and tell me there's a fire that needs to be cooked on, and I'm in. So that was really the start of it. So, in my book, I talk about my father-in-law, John, and he's really responsible. So he gets to bear a lot of the fruit that comes from all this. And that's when it really got serious. Started to have people hit me up, neighbors. Hey, it's my kid's birthday. Could you make me some pulled pork? Could you make me some beef ribs?
Oh yeah, that's the one. That is my kryptonite. I can't, if that's on, by the way, I think they're underutilized. You know what I mean?
Big time.
I realize that I guess it is part of the ribeye, right? That chunk of, because I don't want a beef rib the way I want a pork rib. I want a big slab of meat on there.
Yeah, and the beef rib is above it, and I mean it's brisket on a stick. You know, I think it can be intimidating. You see these big dino bones, and that's what I think a lot of the hesitation comes from, or the underutilization of it. It can be a little pricey, and at the end of the day, people are afraid to mess it up because they don't want to waste their money.
Yeah, and it takes a long time. That's not, you can't flash cook that. No,
you're talking 5 hours probably. And even longer if you want, depending on the temps you want to run. But, man, when it's done right, and it's really not as difficult as I think some people think. And that's my goal in all this, is to kind of make it more approachable. I'm still teaching full time. My kids, they're on lockdown right now because they know I'm on a podcast. So they're outside playing, but they're 9 and 10. When I get off of this, we're going to track practice. I'm going to fire up the grill, throw some steaks on, and that's dinner. So it's just, I hope to be approachable and, show people that this is what it's about. You can do it. And, it's as much of a science as smoking meat is, it's a pretty easy one when you learn it.
And do you still like regular grills too, or are you just primarily obsessed with smoking?
Man, I do it all. So I have my smokers, but with kids, family, jobs, like I don't have time during the week to sit and throw even a rack of ribs on that if I cook them hot and fast, are going to be done in 3 hours. I don't get done school till 3 o'clock, before I blink, it's dinner time. So that kind of stuff isn't happening. So I grill a lot. I have a grill outside. I have a pellet grill that cranks up super hot, company named RecTech. The thing gets to like 1,200 degrees. So it's their new one. It's kind of doing for pellet grills what gas grills do, with propane. So like I said, I'll cook up a couple ribeyes tonight for me and the boys. Grill some vegetables for my wife. She's vegetarian. So,
oh my God, your wife is vegetarian?
Yeah.
Is that a big conflict of interest in the household?
It's not really. I wouldn't say it's a conflict. It's a running constant joke, that we get from, reactions like that when people know what I do. But it's easier to manage than I think a lot of people would think. It's pretty simple to make a meal and just add a protein. I'll cook some steaks. We have, tofu is a super underutilized thing to grill. So many vegetables. There's no better way to do veggies than on the grill. And I have, in my book, I have a whole chapter of vegetables and vegetarian grilling. So something that, again, is easy for us to do. Because we're living it and we're in it every day. So it's really not too difficult.
Yeah. My wife will eat meat, but she does prefer vegetables. So we are forced to always eat vegetables. Plus, I think it's probably healthy to eat some get a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
fiber too. So like
yeah.
I'm
Of
not
course.
anti-vegetables or anything, but I like, if I went up to a buffet with every imaginable food, I think the veggies would be like the last thing I hit, you know,
My favorite way
unfortunately.
to do them is on the grill, and for the simple fact that you just get that charred, open fire char to it that gives you that smokiness and that feel that you're doing it on a grill like you
Yeah.
do with most meat. So plus my grill, I cook a ton of meat on it. So when I throw some cauliflower steaks on the grill for her, she's got to be getting a little essence of meat
Right.
in that
Yeah.
cauliflower.
It's kissed with flavor. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's it. That's it.
Okay, I have a question, and I think sometimes, like I think with the smoker, it becomes more scientific, like number of hours at the temperature, and for the most part, it's much cooler than when you're cooking on the grill. But for me, and I cook a lot, and I'm a damn good cook. But sometimes when I get to a grill, I have no idea if I'm burning something on the outside and keeping it rare on the inside. Do you have any tips for dads who suffer from, I mean, maybe it's just a lack of grill confidence, you know?
Well, my best advice that I give everyone whenever I talk about those kind of things, right? Like taking chicken thighs or chicken breasts out on the grill and you throw them on the grill and you have it maybe too hot and you're charring and cooking the crap out of the outside, but the inside is like completely raw still. So
Yeah.
the best thing you can do when you're grilling in terms of controlling temperatures and controlling the heat, whether it's smoking or whatever, is always give yourself a safe space on your grill. Like you gotta have an out. I taught driver's ed for a long time, Ethan. I taught 16-year-old kids how to drive. I risk my life every day teaching behind the wheel. And just like driving, I've always told them as you're driving, you have to anticipate and always think about an out. When you stop at a red light, you don't bump up to the person behind you because God forbid something happens, you're stuck. You need to give yourself room to get around the car in front of you at any given point, just from a safety standpoint for kids. And no different with grilling. It's crazy. You got to give yourself an out when you're on the grill. So if you have a flare up or you have some fat fall into the grill from the chicken skin, or you feel like you're getting a little too hot, you can just simply take your meat and put it off onto the cold side. So if you're running a 4-burner gas grill, is probably the most popular grill in the world, keep one burner off
Okay.
and let the other 3 go and use those for your direct heat. Same thing with charcoal. Brush a little bit of the charcoal to one half of the grill. Give yourself an open, safe space with no coals.
And
So
that
that's
way, with
really
the thing closed, it'll still be cooking. It just won't be burning if that's the problem you're running into.
100%. So that's, my favorite way to cook a beef rib or a big, thick 3-inch tomahawk steak or something, bone-in ribeye, is to do it with a reverse sear. So indirect cooking, push the charcoal and wood to one side, get that smoke going. The meat goes on the cold side. You put the lid on. You're able to control the dampers and the temperature to keep it around, between that 275 and 325 range, and get that internal cooked. Right, the outside isn't going to look pretty yet, but you're going to get that internal cooked. And once you're ready and you're there, say 120 degrees if you want medium rare, then you crank up the coals or you fire up the propane and you go ahead and slap that meat direct over the flame in just 2 minutes each side, and you crank it and get that beautiful crust. And that's just the way to do it. That's how I cook. That's how I'll cook my ribeyes tonight for the boys.
Yeah, my brother and I and my brother-in-law and I were recently having trouble with tri-tips where we were burning the outsides and the inside was, I like medium rare, and this was just like it was ice cold.
Still raw.
Yeah, and then all the girls in our lives were like wanting to recook everything to well done because they were so freaked out about how rare it was. And it was pretty much a disaster, but I think we messed up simply by not doing what you're talking about, allowing it to cook first and then getting a nice little char on the outside.
Yeah. That's with anything like that, tri-tip, picanha, any of those large cuts that are steaks. With picanha, I'll either do the reverse sear, do the indirect cook, and then char it, sear it over top before I slice it to the internal I want, or I'll cut it into steaks and just cook the steaks like you would a regular steak.
Yeah.
But man, there's picanha and tri-tip are two of my top 5 cuts of beef, man.
They're so good. And
So
it is
insanely good.
it is weird. Like you go to even a steakhouse. I'm in New York right now, and there's a steakhouse here called Keen's, which I love. It's a very, very old steakhouse. And you can get stuff like a mutton chop and different cuts there. But you go to your typical steakhouse and it's like filet, strip, ribeye.
That's it.
Or you get the filet strip combo in a porterhouse. You know what I mean? Like occasionally they'll do that.
Yep.
But I think that there's so many other cuts of meat that are fun, like a skirt steak. I love a skirt steak. The flavor is really unique. The texture is unique. I could go eat a skirt steak any night of the week and be super happy. It doesn't all have to be ribeyes. Don't get me wrong. I love a ribeye.
Yeah. I mean, you look at skirt steak, you look at flank steak, you look at a bavette. I've been huge into Denver steaks lately. I mean, just so many good cuts out there. And what's beautiful about it now is when, we're both like, I graduated high school in 96. Right. So I think we're almost exactly the same age. Yeah. And back then I couldn't go online and have meat shipped to me in like 2 days. Like it wasn't as accessible as it is now. I can go online now to 18 different, small farms across the country and get fresh, cut meat that I know is coming from a grass-fed farm in Idaho and shipped to my door in a matter of 48 hours. And you can get absolutely any cut you want. For me, growing up, it was like, all right, we're going to ShopRite and maybe I'll just get a strip steak or a sirloin more than any. And that's how it was. But now it's so easy to get absolutely any cut of meat that you want. And a lot of these farms are doing such an incredible job direct to consumer. And that's really changed the game.
Yeah, it is. It is a whole different universe. Yeah. When I grew up, we only had sirloin. I remember
that was it, sirloin steak.
Yeah. My mom would occasionally make a London broil. And other than that, it was sirloin.
Oh, and the London broil, man, I remember it was like my dad's favorite cut growing up, and it was like chewing a rubber band.
It was not something I would ever eat today. That's for sure.
I can't believe it's still in the stores, but I mean, I guess you cook it slow and, you could always do it that way. But yeah, that's to your point. I'd rather go in the store and get a skirt, get an inside or outside skirt and just do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild, the difference just in our lifetimes. And the fact that, like, when we were kids, you'd have to go to, like, Alabama to find somebody smoking something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember anything smoked when I was a kid. Even the barbecue spots near my house, I don't think they were actually smoking stuff. I think it was just low and slow cooking in an oven.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the only smoking that I remember when I was a kid, I think my mom had like one of these little, I don't even think it was a smoker. It was like a dehydrator, and she made like beef jerky in it,
right,
and was able to add like some sort of smoke flavor in it to some point. But like, that's all I ever remember. Barbecue and the growth of social media and just all these incredible chefs that are out there doing their thing. And it's just, you can't log into any platform and not see some delicious meat getting thrown around. So it's pretty cool.
Dude, it's wild. I think that is like the majority of my feed is cooking, It's like a weird thing too, because like I'm a sober guy, so I don't really want to watch people taking drugs or drinking, I'm not interested in doing that. But I'm also like been on a diet for 20 years and will watch people cook all day long, and you
all
find
day.
it just to be so glorious.
Yeah.
I do think there's something incredibly useful and empowering about like cooking your own food, you know, taking a recipe and trying it out. And if you don't get it exactly right, doing it again and working on it until you get what it should be, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's, I touched on it earlier, and this whole kind of ride that I'm on with the social media, with being able to do a book and working with some incredible brands, and just connecting with such amazing people, is the teaching aspect of it. And I'm still a teacher. I'm in my 22nd year. I teach high school, and I've been able to make a shift from teaching health and phys ed, for 20 years to now being in culinary. And I'm teaching high school kids culinary arts, home ec, which is a blessing for me, because health and phys ed was getting tougher and tougher every year to get these high school kids, these teenage, high school age kids to want to move. And I think the lull with COVID still is lingering with a lot of these kids at this age in high school. But, to be in the kitchen now, impacting kids in a little bit of different way, just the way that you mentioned, giving them tools. I was used to giving kids tools to go home and be active and find joy in movement and all that kind of stuff. And, practice what you preach type of stuff. I was a coach for 20 years, and basketball was my sport. So I was always active and always trying to, show that to the kids. And now I get to do it in a kitchen in a little bit of a different way, but still being able to hold on to that health and phys ed background that I have, because hopefully I'm teaching kids how to make smart decisions. And what you just said about being able to cook your own food, catch your own food, hunt your own food, know exactly the farm in Wisconsin or in Montana that your steak is coming from. To be able to talk to the farmers through social media. I mean, I have conversations every day with the farmers that are out there in the farms, and I'm getting to meet, 2 days later. It's pretty special. And there's so much power in that, so much knowledge in that. And to keep these kids away from all the processed foods and know that they can go home and know their way around the kitchen a little bit. So, that's kind of the message in my book is that's what I want. I just want people to get outside or in the kitchen, cook with your families. I have my wife and 2 kids. This is where either here or outside, it's where you build your family. I mean, anytime we have people over, we end up in the kitchen or we end up out back. And, there's something real special that happens when you involve food and the people you love and that you're surrounded with. So that's really my goal with this. That's what I hope people get out of my recipes and my book and the story. It's something that I hope is super impactful for people.
Yeah, the school you teach at that offers home ec, has it always had home ec, or is this something they recently put in? Because I didn't have home ec. I didn't know how to cook anything.
Yeah.
And many of the people who I didn't even go to school with, but that I know really well, have no idea how to cook anything. Like I had to
Where did you go to school, Ethan? Where'd you grow up?
California.
In Cali.
Yeah.
So I'm in like South Jersey, Philadelphia area. In my high school, we had a home ec, but we maybe baked a cake.
Right.
Like that was it. And then it was like laundry and sewing and like all that kind of stuff. It was a class that was really, we took it because we knew there were going to be 23 girls and 3 guys in the class.
Right.
Like that's it. Now we flip that shit big time now, because my classes are like 50-50, if not more boys than girls, because for one, they know they have me in class, and I get to bring, I have a
You're going to make
brands.
something delicious.
Oh man, I got brands that are so supportive and know what I do, and they'll send me meat and I'll be able to bring it in and cook for kids, things that they may never eat at home. But to be able to show them that and share that is pretty cool. but it's the home ec thing. We've always had it. My colleague that I teach with, she's 63 years old, and she graduated from the high school that we teach at in Washington Township. And she was in culinary class in the same classroom we're teaching in today.
Oh, wow.
Back when she was in high school, decades ago. So they've always had the program. And thank God that it's not a target that the state or whoever is trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that phys ed is under attack big time. Schools want to do away with it. They don't feel a need for it, which is just sad.
No, it's crazy. I think about like the things that I do every single day in my life. And one of them for me is exercise. And the other thing is cooking, unless I'm traveling. And then usually I've done some meal prep prior to traveling so that I can take my food with me. But the empowerment I get out of being able to go into a kitchen. I have a buddy whose house I stayed at recently, and man, that dude, I don't think has ever cooked anything in his life. And the idea when I was like, let's just make something. It was like I was speaking a foreign language to him. He was like, what? No, we have DoorDash. Why would we make something,
Right.
But like God. I have friends who just couldn't cook something to save their lives, basically. And that's sad, and like, I think there's restaurants hold a special place in my heart for, eating something ridiculous or incredible or finding new flavors that are not going to be a part of my day-to-day life. But I have confidence going into my kitchen, knowing I will be able to make something that is good,
Yep. Good and healthy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's like, man, Ethan, I've listened to your podcast. I've listened to guests that you've had, and so much of it is surrounding health and fitness and wellness and the mental aspect of it, and it's no different with the world that I live in with health and phys ed and teaching and dealing with adolescents and teenagers and seeing the struggles they have. But as far as diet and food, I mean, I've recently lost in the last 12 to 18 months, like 30 pounds. I felt like I was going to pop like a tick, but I was eating probably 80% of my calories at night after my kids went to bed, crushing 3 bowls of Captain Crunch or cereal, stuff like that. And I've gone not carnivore per se, because I still eat a lot of veggies, but I've cut out sugar. I've cut out, all that senseless like bread that I don't need to eat. And I eat a ton of protein. Yeah. And I get the question all the time, like, how are you not 300 pounds with the food you cook and the videos you post? Like, how are you not like huge? And like, barbecue doesn't have to be like that. Like, right. It just because you don't have to like, I can't eat that. I mean, beef ribs, man, are they fatty? Of course, but is a little bit of a fatty cut of meat terrible for you? Nothing's terrible for you in moderation. So, right. I can't tell you if I've ever eaten an entire beef rib. I was just telling my wife, if I make a rack of ribs, a rack of baby backs in the backyard, I might eat 3 or 4 ribs.
Yeah.
There's 12 ribs on a rack. I'm not taking down a whole rack.
Well, no, yeah. It's like when you get like at a restaurant, if you get like the A5 Wagyu, and it's some ridiculous price per ounce or something like that, it's fine. I can't eat more than an ounce of that stuff because my body just suddenly, it's delicious. The first bite's incredible. By the time I get to the third bite, I'm like, give me something lean. I'm not even a filet guy, but at that point, I'll just be all in on a filet because it's super lean,
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's it. And it's like, it's the sauces, the rubs, the seasonings, like that's where all your sugar kicks in. I'm not a big sauce guy. Like, I'm not dumping sauce all over my pulled pork or my brisket. My seasonings aren't, I have a seasoning company, Rub City. We're low sugar, low salt. It's all healthy, the most healthy seasonings and ingredients you could have. And it's all keto friendly, and that's all flavor, but without loads of sugar and molasses and brown sugar and all that stuff that comes with your traditional barbecue, the way you envision it in your head,
Yeah.
So
no, the
it doesn't
picture
have
I
to
have,
be
the picture when I think of barbecue, I think of a plate of meat swimming in sauce.
a tray.
A
Think of a
tray, yeah,
tray,
and it's got
right?
to have that lip so nothing slides off.
Yeah,
And
with brown
there's
paper.
and maybe a couple slices of Wonder Bread dropped on top to soak it
That's
up.
it.
Yeah,
That's it.
but
and you got your mac
to your point, it doesn't have to be that. It's literally meat and a fire. I mean, yeah, and of course you can do veggies, but I'm not like that. Doesn't make my mouth water as much as a piece of meat.
And that's it. Like, that's what I hope. All these recipes that I have, like, it's so flexible. There's so much room to experiment and put your own flair into things. And that's everything I cook. I'm like, make it yours, right? Like, I make things my own flavor, my own vibe. You can do that with yourself in the kitchen, out on the grill, and it's not too hard. The cover of my book is probably my favorite meal. Like, that's it right there. Just open fire and a nice big Tommy. Like, that's going to make you pretty happy.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that. I once walked into a butcher, and they had this was an incredibly fancy butcher in New York on the Upper East Side called Lobel's. You ever hear of Lobel's?
No, I haven't.
They're just, and of course at this fancy schmancy butcher, they had taken a bunch of full prime ribs and cut the cap off of them, and we're just selling the prime rib cap. And I was like, I have to buy that. I've never,
they roll
I've never
it
seen
up,
that.
tie it.
Yeah, it was insane. It was absolutely insane.
They shape it and you just cook it like a fillet. Like, it's incredible. Easily the best cut of meat right there, the rib cap fillet.
That
rib cap.
Yeah. But it's so good. Like, the picture you had, that's probably what, a 30 or 40 ounce tomahawk.
Yeah, I mean, that's
ribeye?
massive. Yeah.
You couldn't eat that much of the rib cap. You couldn't eat 40 ounces of the rib cap.
Nope. And you get a good tomahawk or a good ribeye, that rib cap, even if you have a 32 ounce ribeye, you're looking probably 12 ounces of that is the rib cap. And that's so fatty and rich. To eat that whole rib cap is crazy. Whenever I cook a ribeye and I have a nice big rib cap, that gets put aside first. I slice up the eye, go ahead and put whatever on it, chimney, whatever, if you have sauce or a cowboy butter. And then I keep that rib cap and I'll slice a piece for me. Chef's kiss. I get the first bite. And then I'll separate that, and you give that to the people you really love.
Yeah.
You give that to the people that are near and dear to your heart. Because
that's the meat gold.
You don't
right
let
there.
people just reach in. Like, when I'm doing tailgates in Philly or wherever I'm at, I have the cutting board. Like, there's no utensils. People just reach in and grab the meat, and it's open season. But that ribeye cap, like, if you reach your hand close to that,
like, nicked.
Like, I'm giving you a shot. Like, you're not grabbing that. You got to ask permission.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel the exact same way. That is the part that is coveted.
Yep, that's it. It's the first part that Adric and Nash will ask for tonight when I finish up their ribeyes.
Nice. I love that you're teaching kids to cook too. That's amazing.
That's it. Listen, it was a blessing because, like I said, I was getting beat up, man, after 20 years, like, just finding the motivation. I'd, come home from work and Kristen be like, "Hey, how's your day?" And I'm like, is a day. Like, it's another day. Same thing. Like, trying to get kids to stand up, like, let alone walk and move their body. I was dragging, man. But, I got the opportunity last minute 2 years ago to, flip over to Culinary. My principal called me. We were here in the kitchen, and, the phone went off, and I saw my principal's name. I've worked with him for 20 plus years as a teacher before. And I saw his name. It was in August. And I'm like, your principal calls you and you're a teacher, an adult, you still get that like, oh my God, shit, what did I do? Like my principal's calling me. It's like I was getting called into the principal's office, and I answered the phone and had him on speaker, and he asked how the family's doing, a little chit chat. And then he's like, listen, have you ever thought about teaching culinary? And my wife's screaming in the background, yes, 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 like yelling it. And we were able to make it happen because I owned a barbecue business and had experience in the field as well as my teaching certification. We were able to go to the state and make it happen. And now I'm finishing up my second year teaching culinary. So we just took my group of kids to Reading Terminal Market in Philly, which is just an iconic place in the country as far as, food and culture goes. So we were able to take these 14, 15-year-old kids that have never been to Philly, let alone Reading Terminal Market, and to try some of the nationally world-renowned, pork sandwiches, cheesesteaks, donuts that they have over in Reading Terminal, and learn a little bit of the history. So it's been a super rejuvenating couple years for me. And then to back it up with the fact that my other career has become social media and food content, and now an author and a cookbook. Like, I'm just in a really, really good place. And then being able to see these kids go home and come into school the next day and tell me they helped make dinner with their parents. It hits you the right way.
Yeah, dude, that's amazing to go from like something where you're really struggling with getting the kids to be motivated to even participate to something where the kids are coming home and sharing stories of like how they're using the knowledge you've passed down to them in their life. That's amazing.
Yep, it is. It's huge. And then you top that with the same thing every teacher's doing in this, space right now. And it's just teaching kids how to act.
Yeah.
I'm teaching culinary, but
I wish there was some way to get kids fired up about moving, because I also think moving is quite good for us. But like, goddamn, if knowing how, you walk outside your house and every single point of commerce you hit throughout the day is going to have just an abundance of highly processed calories that are next to nothing. And it's so easy to go like, I can eat my meal at the gas station for pocket change and it'll be delicious. I might be hungry an hour later, but I'll get enough food for a couple of bucks. It's hard not to do that. I get it, man. But like to be actually excited about cooking for yourself and to know how, because I just think like I, as a kid, never learned how to do that. I didn't know how to cook until I went on my first diet. And when I went on my first diet, I became like obsessed with watching food TV and like basically learned how to cook just watching Molto Mario, like
you knew you
had
to.
I had to.
You knew you had to reach the goals that you had to do that. You had to become that.
Yeah, it has played a big role in my success, is the confidence in the kitchen of going like, even when I have so much diet fatigue and absolutely nothing sounds like it will be palatable to me, other than like a Big Mac or a Twinkie.
Yeah.
I know I can go in the kitchen and make something that will satisfy whatever craving I'm having.
Yeah. And what's really cool, this is like a little slept on because you don't think about it, but when I was teaching health and phys ed and we're outside and we did some cool shit, like we did archery in phys ed, we did, some really cool activities, but archery isn't exactly a movement sport, right? Like you're not moving a lot, but a lot of days I always track my steps when I was, in phys ed. And I mean, I'm 10, 15, 20,000 steps a day when I was in phys ed, but you don't realize, and think about this, Ethan, next time you're in your kitchen cooking or you're outside grilling, think about how much you're moving.
Yeah.
When you're in the kitchen. I know when I was waiting tables, when I was on a line cooking, like you're moving constantly. So that plays to my culinary classes too, because my kids don't sit down. in class. Like, we have prep tables. They don't have desks. They each have state kitchen stations, and they're on their feet the entire period. They're moving the entire period. I can come home after a day teaching culinary, and there's days I have more steps than when I was teaching phys ed. Yeah. So it's still a cool opportunity for me to be able to kind of meld both of my, career paths that I've been on with the movement as well as the culinary, because walking is like so underestimated in terms of just an effective movement pattern. And, my wife and I, weather is always a factor, but we've tried our best to get into that routine of every night after dinner, we have dinner. And if sports aren't in the way and taxiing kids here and there, we have dinner at home. We get done dinner. We got a little bit before bath time in bed. We're going out and we're taking a walk. Yeah. Kids can hop on the bikes. Kristen and I will walk behind them. And to get into that pattern, that routine is huge. And, that goes a long way. So I'm blessed, man, to be in this space and be teaching still and be able to combine all the things that I'm pretty passionate about. So this book is it's been 3 years in the making, and I didn't have a ghostwriter. I didn't have a photography team. I didn't have a food stylist.
You took all those pictures yourself?
No. So my wife did. These are all photos by Kristen. She graduated from Rutgers, New Brunswick, up north, and she worked in Manhattan right out of college for Self magazine, which was a magazine that was around when you and I were younger back in the 90s, right? And she was right next door, shared a floor with Sports Illustrated, and that was back in the early 2000s. And then she saw 9/11 happen outside of her apartment window, and she volunteered on site for a period of time, and then came back home and went back to school for education, and was a teacher, administrator, principal for about 17 years. And recently retired, not recently, a couple years ago. And she's following through with some passion projects and volunteering with wildlife rescues and keeping this house from burning down while I'm doing what I'm doing, and taking care of the kids and getting to spend more time with them. So the cookbook is just an entire family project. This is it, man. It was like, look, this is right in our backyard. Kristen took the photo. We have grilled. You ever grill a chicken Caesar salad?
Never. Oh, is it grilled lettuce? I've had that before at a restaurant. It's quite good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's grilled romaine. Yeah. We camp a lot, right? So my boys are in the book. It's all just, she carried a camera with her on every camping trip. We'd cook a few recipes on the fly. She'd take some photos while we're camping. We'd do it in the backyard. There were times we had to buckle down and make 3, 4, 5 recipes a night here in the kitchen. We'd go outside, set it up ourselves, take the photos. We did everything. So the team at HarperCollins was awesome. But this was bootstrapped, man, from the ground up. So just Kristen and myself. And
That's amazing, dude.
It was quite the process. So as a teacher with the book named The Meat Teacher, it was literally a family project. So it's a pretty cool story.
Matt, that is awesome. I love what you're doing. Thank you for doing it. Keep doing it. And I can't wait for your next book. You got to come back on and we'll talk about that.
You got it, man. You in New York now?
I am. I go back and forth between LA and New York a lot.
Nice. Well, you find yourself a little south of New York in the Jersey area, hit me up and we'll throw down a little bit.
Hell yeah. I want to come to your house to eat.
Got to get you to a tailgate, man.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You got it. I appreciate you, Ethan.
You too.